Thank you for the opportunity to be part of this today. It's something I've done only a couple times, although I've been, as you all know, part of this club for a long time. And it's fun to come back and see everybody here and watch the enthusiasm and see all of the new members. There used to be a time when we used to know everybody. And the good news is we don't, and that means that there's a lot of new people coming into the club, and that's wonderful. So I'm going to spend 15 minutes here talking about a couple different topics having to do with leadership, professionalism, teamwork, and then a little bit on coaching, and we'll try to get it done in 15 minutes here. I know we're running late. So my disclosures are none, except I will admit to owning shares in the Green Bay Packers. I don't know if that matters to anybody, but obviously it doesn't, but it's important in the Midwest, okay? Just take my word for it. So this is what I did most of my career, what you're all doing, and it was something that I loved and look back upon, because I don't do it anymore, as the highlight of the career and something that really was important to not only do, but also to help others. And I always like to put the picture up because it reminds me of the good times, if you know what I mean. So all of you in the audience who are still doing this, please don't underestimate, even during your tough days, what a great thing this is to do, and how much of an opportunity you really have to do something exciting and fun and innovative and cool, and not only that, you get to help people at the same time. And when you look back on a career like I do at this point in my life, wow, I say I'm lucky I did that. I really feel lucky I did that, because boy, there just doesn't seem to be anything better I could have thought of to do. So it's an enjoyable time to be a surgeon. You know, in the OR, nobody can get us, usually. And we still do very exciting, innovative things, just like I heard this morning. And again, I'd just like to take a moment about the club. The club's been a unique adventure for 27 years. Some of you have been here the whole 27. I think Joe's in the audience, and Pete, and several others. And many of you have carried it forward, Mark and Frank and Bonnie and Joanne and Carla. And when I look back on kind of what this club was all about, I think there's many of you in the audience, and some of us have talked about this, that this is one of the most important kind of aspects of our societal life. We have great societies, STS, AATS, others, but this is the one where you can come and really meet your colleagues. This is the one where you really get to build relationships and talk to your pals. This is the one you can really ask them the key question. So, you know, this has been a wonderful experience, and I would urge you all to continue on, as hard as it is sometimes to get here to keep doing the club. It's just been a wonderful thing, and I say that in retrospect. So let's get ahead. Anybody want to take a gamble at saying healthcare doesn't look something like this today as you look out around you? Interestingly enough, that is the Mayo Clinic Hospital in Arizona. And we actually do get rain here from time to time, and that was a microburst that actually took off a part of the side of our hospital. But that's a little bit on how healthcare looks today. It's kind of unknowable. It's changing. Hard to know where it's going. Where are we going to be in the whole picture of things? What's going to happen, et cetera, et cetera. So it's somewhat of a dark cloud. At least that's the way it seems. But I would say, you know, if you've been in healthcare long enough, you've been a surgeon long enough, you know, you're always facing kind of a tough time. There's always kind of a dark cloud. There's always a new challenge. And you know what? That's why we went into surgery in the first place, is to deal with challenges and innovate and solve problems. So I would say that it's really not a whole lot different than things 20 years ago or 15 years ago. Yes, it may be a little bit bigger and wider, and the government's more involved and all that stuff. But guess what? Patients are still need your care. And as long as that's the case, you know, there's a great opportunity to always be part of what's going to happen in the future. And I would say it's probably a more opportunistic time to be involved and to get things done and to have exciting change than ever. You know, how we all get paid, somehow that seems to work out. It's always a bit of a struggle, but if you give great care to patients, I think we're always going to be relevant. So even though the times look kind of dark, I think it's a positive situation, especially when you look at things such as leadership, professionalism, and teamwork. So, at the end of the day, the one thing everybody's got to remember, all of those people who tell us what to do every day, is that we're the ones who touch patients. And as long as that's the case, we still have the opportunity to be part of the change, lead the change, and those type of things. The people who don't touch patients, who would love to tell us what to do and how to do it, are never going to quite be able to do what we do. So we mustn't forget that. As long as we're taking great care of patients, which is what we do, we still have a great opportunity to be part of things. So leadership, the first part. Really, we've all been involved in leadership for a long time. We may not have called it that, but you've heard several talks this morning, and really it's a time now to lead. It's a time now for those inside healthcare to lead. We need to step forward, and that means in our hospitals, in our systems, and at the government level, just as you heard by Dr. Thompson. And leading is about having professionalism and character. It's about knowing where you're going, vision. It's about inspiring people to get there. It's about finding resources to get it done, and actually it's about getting something done. So as leaders, you all have that opportunity to be a leader, and you are leaders now, to lead in more things. We're equipped to do this. And we lead around what? The value equation. You heard about, let's increase value in healthcare. Guess what? You control all aspects of the value equation. The outcome, the safety, the service, and you use the resources, the cost. So we have the ability to control that for the patient's benefit. So we really have a lot in the game when it comes to leadership, and I would just encourage that we do that, as we have been, and it's been growing. A servant leadership model, which is one of many models of leadership, and there's no one model that fits anything all the time, is a good one for healthcare, because guess what? We always work in a team. Very seldom do you operate totally alone. Very seldom, if at all. You always have a team. And the idea of having a good result, which is the purpose of the operation, is to help your team be strong as you lead them at that point in time. And you can call it whatever you want, but that's what's going on. And we always are aimed at a higher good. We're always trying to make our patients better. Nobody wants a bad result. Nobody wants that complication, because guess what? Like I said in the first place, because we are the ones that take care of the patients, we are responsible and accountable for what happens to them. So if something goes bad because the equipment was cheap, or we missed a step because somebody thought that was a lean process that worked, and the patient doesn't do well, who lives with that? You do. I do. The patient family do. And that helps to keep a kind of governing loop on the thing so that we don't get crazy doing things that don't make sense for the best outcomes of the patients. I'm just going to skip this one because we'll move on. So leadership, it's our time more than ever to step forward, and I think you've heard many aspects of that during this meeting and especially this morning at Ready. We are in a good position to lead, and we really need to kind of take that on and move forward. Medical students are going to be taught more about leadership as things go forward. That is something that's happening already. So professionalism is really something we mustn't forget in this changing world, because if we ever forget this part, then we're out. And professionalism is no more of the behaviors that underpin the trust that society and the patient put into us. They trust us with their lives. I mean, it's amazing. You walk in an office room, you see a patient, you've never seen that patient before, they have a lung cancer or a briefly. And you talk to them for 20 minutes, half an hour, who knows, and they sign up to have you operate on them. They have just put their life in your hands and the team that you run. And you may see 5 patients, 10 patients like that in a day. And as long as we are trusted as caregivers, as surgeons, we're in the game. As soon as we lose that trust, we're out of the game. because that's the business we're in, trust. You really have to trust somebody to allow them to operate on you. I just had knee surgery, and even that little bit of surgery, a lot can go wrong. And so you still put your trust, even in an orthopod. I mean, it still works that way. I can say that there's no orthopods out here. They're all good. So really, professionalism is no more than just doing the right things at the right time for the right reasons. You all know what it is. You were brought up that way. You're in the healthcare for different. You're entrepreneurs who went into caring for patients. You took that right at day one that you would, do these things. And as you know, about anything about patient care or about leading, nobody follows an unprofessional person very far, the patient nor a staff. So professionalism is important. One point here, it's kind of interesting. We have two levels of things we do. We take care of patients, and we have a management system, whatever you want to call it, of staff. And where you work, it's all a little different how that works. And to be honest, if you think about it, how we care and serve patients, the way we take care and manage ourselves should line up. It should be similar. We should serve and care each other and care for people. There should be an alignment there. It shouldn't be like command and control over here, and then we're going to serve over here or serve over here. So there has to be an alignment in what we do. And that means we practice professional. Would you be unprofessional to your patients? Would you ever walk into the office and see the patient for the first time and say to him, well, something disrespectful? I mean, it happens occasionally, and for reasons but it's rare, isn't it? So therefore, when we work with our staff, shouldn't we treat them the same, give the same way? There should be an alignment there, I'm going to go by these. Just trying to save a little time here. Teamwork. So if professionalism is doing the right thing and kind of how we behave with the patient and each other, and being disrespectful is not in the game, then teamwork, if you think of how do you get your work done every day? How do you get the work done? How do you write a paper? How do you operate? How do you see a patient in ICU? How do you take care of how do you get an appointment? You're always working with a group of people. You very seldom do it totally alone. And your teams change and, things come and go, but you do it through teamwork, always. So if you think of leading and professionalism, everything plays out in a team. Here's an operating team. It happens to be a liver transplant scenario in our hospital years ago, but it's a lot of people there. You can't even see all of them. There's probably 5 more. So it's always a team. So teamwork gets the work done. And the way you build a strong team is you talk, communicate, and if you communicate with your team members over time, you have respect. If you do respect over time, you have trust. And if you have trust in a team, you can do anything. And those of you in the OR, who have OR teams, and I've heard some of you talk about building teams and the importance of strong teams, when you've got that trusting team. When you have that. You can do anything. Your operations are going to be always the best they can be. So the best team wins, and communication, respect, trust is how you build a strong team. And that's what leaders do. It goes back to the servant concept of making your team strong. The professionalism is how you behave, the respect. It all fits together in getting the ultimate outcome for the patient. So, kind of went fast. Big problems. They're solvable, and we can do it. We do it every day. We mustn't get discouraged. Standing up as a leader, professionalism, and getting those teams stronger are all ways that we're going to get through this and make it better. And now I'd just kind of like to move on to one last thing, and that's coaching. And it's interesting, I didn't know what the talks were going to be before they were given this morning. And it's surprising, we talked a lot about mentoring, we talked a lot about online and electronic learning, we talked about beads and robotic, minimally invasive surgery. A lot of new and exciting things, a lot of mentoring and coaching. And I think there's kind of an opportunity here. There's a couple things going on. First of all, the mentoring that I got from people like Pete Paralero and some of his colleagues kind of has gone down because of, guess what? There's just, more productivity issues. How many people have an EMR they struggle with? More hands went up when I said struggle with than had EMRs. So word's gotten out. How many are more rules and regulations and documentation? Yeah. So the day has shrunk for your time to mentor and coach, and there just isn't time. You have to kind of rebuild it again, just as you rebuild this mentoring for students. So I think the coaching thing, now what about hours for residents? What's happened with that? Are they coming out better trained? I mean, there's a sense that maybe they're a little short when they come out at the end of their training because, we're catching up to that, finding better ways to train them. So there's this gap that has developed with mentoring and coaching, not only with med students, as you heard, but certainly with residents and new staff. The new guy who joins your practice, or the new person who comes on the Mayo practice. There's an opportunity for the older guys, like me, to give something back and be part of that mentoring and coaching. And I've talked to several of you. Larry Cardozo, I see sitting over there, is an old resident. I was a medical student under him, and he said he's doing some of that. And I've heard that from others, that you're kind of getting a lot of the physicians here that aren't operating full-time or going out are starting to find ways to teach back. Rick Fine's outfit and the senior tour. There's a senior tour for thoracic surgeons, and this is a way to give back and mentor. So coaching becomes important. And it's something we can do, and it helps make the surgical team stronger and the surgeons stronger, especially the young ones. And I'm just going to tell a short story, and then I'm going to ask Dawn Jaruzelski to come up, and she's going to make a few comments, because she and I got into a coaching situation about a year ago. And I actually went through the process of evaluating her situation, going to the OR. We had a few issues to kind of talk about. And we spent, I think, about every 2 or 3 weeks together coaching outside the OR, trying to do the best at coaching. Now, coaching and mentoring are pretty much the same. Mentoring means I tell her what to do. Coaching means I help her figure out how she can do it better. It's kind of, and somebody brought that up. But I found it very fulfilling. It was very challenging. And it was more about how the operating room ran than the technical parts of the operation. And we completed our time, and I'll let Dawn kind of explain kind of how it felt from her end. Because one of the things we wanted to leave you with was this idea of this coaching mentoring model that actually is open to anybody, all of you at your institutions, and kind of what it felt like. So Dawn, you want to make a few comments? I'd appreciate that.
So probably I'd been at work back at Mayo 6 years, and I trained there, went away from my cardiothoracic and came back. And there was this kind of continued feeling of you were still the chief resident. There was these relationships in the operating room with staff that were there when you were a resident. And I was very, very much struggling with kind of the leadership role and having kind of people back talk to me and taking control of the OR. And that was leading to a lot of frustration on my part, some lack of professionalism. And it was very nice because, when I met with the leadership at Mayo, I said, I just can't seem to get to the point where I feel like I should be where I am at with my career and my timing of out. And so they set me up with Trastic, and at first it was a little intimidating because he was like, well, I'm going to come watch you in the operating room. And I was like, oh, God, and like everybody in the operating room was, like on their best behavior. But after a few times, you kind of forget that he's there. And it was extremely instrumental, and it completely made a difference to my career and lifetime ability to succeed. And it was, Dawn, you're not doing something wrong. It's just there's so many things that you can do better. And just that experience of, communication issues, things that you're not, the way you communicate is not well, and establishing the line of leadership and the line of, who's the boss and what's your, and briefing the team and going through, it made such a difference in my OR team's ability to trust me, to feel confident, to respond. And it's completely changed my career and interaction and relationships at Mayo. And so I think it's no different than public speaking when you have someone that watches you and go, quit moving your hand so much, that makes you look nervous, or quit repeating. And they watch you, and it's, how do you make someone better? And I think as senior staff, especially with new people, I mean, you don't learn that in residency. You don't learn chain of command. You don't learn leadership role. And some of the characteristics that make you very successful of pushing through a challenging residency and stuff are the not characteristics that are going to do well for you in the operating and working as a leader. And so I think it's very important to spend the time to do some coaching, to come see your junior people when they come in and give them suggestions. Say, you know what, when this happens, a much better, more constructive way to react to that is boom, boom, boom. And those are all learned behaviors, and I can tell you it made a huge difference to me in my career. I appreciate it very much that he spent that time.
Thank you, John. Thank you, and I learned, as always, any good teacher will tell you, you coach, you learn something in the other direction, and I learned many things also. So, at the end of the day, this is another way to help make our services, our surgeons better, our young surgeons in particular. There's a lot of online stuff going on, as you heard, but there's some real human-to-human stuff that can be done through coaching that I think is helpful in the OR, and this is another way to exemplify the kind of leadership, professionalism, and teamwork that I was talking about. So I want to thank you, for the opportunity to speak this morning. I think we got done close to 15 or 20 minutes, and let me just say again, how I started. After 27 years, you general thoracic surgeons are the best group, subspecialty group in the country, and that's the way we started this group, and it's still that way, and I wish the best to everybody in the future. You're a great group. We're good friends, good colleagues. We all learn from each other. We're honest, and we know how to have a good time. So thanks a lot.